In the savage ecosystem of the Pleistocene, a lone wolf human wasn't a badass survivor, he was a biological joke. Evolutionary forces looked at our species and gave us a massive, ridiculously greedy brain that consumes 20% of our daily calories, while giving us the physical strength of a wet paper towel compared to a cave lion. That giant brain is basically an incredibly expensive, high-maintenance processor. To pay for it, humans had to outsource their survival to a collective memory bank. No single primate was designed to run this software alone. If you got kicked out of the group, your fancy, oversized brain became a useless piece of hardware that did only one thing. It calculated exactly how fast you were starving to death. The tribe survived simply because they split up the mental heavy lifting into specialized multi-generational tasks. The wheezing, half-blind elder coughing in the corner of the damp cave wasn't dead weight or a burden on resources. He was a walking map, a biological hard drive. He was the only one alive who remembered the exact location of deeply buried mud springs during the historic drought 30 years ago. The women maintained an exhaustive catalog of botanical chemical warfare, passed down through oral repetition, knowing exactly which obscure red berries could cure a systemic fever and which identical-looking ones would liquefy your liver by morning. The young hunters spent decades mastering the precise kinetic angle to strike a piece of flint to produce a lethal, glass-sharp edge. The second a human was banished, their personal database went completely blank regarding the wider landscape. Standing alone under the dark canopy, the exiled primate had to figure out every single evolutionary problem from scratch, by himself, simultaneously. You had to find water that wouldn't infect your gut with fatal parasites. Identify safe plants without a test subject. Build a shelter that could withstand a torrential downpour. And craft weapons from raw stone using only your own blistered hands. All of this had to be done while your blood pressure skyrocketed from sheer, unadulterated terror. Within 48 hours, the myth of the rugged, independent survivor evaporated, leaving only a hyperventilating, exhausted ape crying in a thorn bush because its brain suffered a massive data overload. But the true unglamorous horror of banishment wasn't starvation, dehydration, or the sudden lack of survival knowledge. It was a brutal, non-negotiable mathematical problem called sleep, no matter how fierce, paranoid, or physically dominant a human was. Their biological clock demanded that they shut down their consciousness and paralyze their motor functions for 8 hours every single day. Inside the tribe, this absolute vulnerability was perfectly managed through cooperation. Humans survived by inventing the world's first rotating guard shift. While you slept, Uncle Thag and Cousin Ugg were awake by the fire, holding heavy ash spears, coughing loudly, stoking the embers, and staring intently into the dark. The group maintained an unbroken wall of human presence, a noisy, smoky barrier of smells and sounds that kept the monsters at bay. The moment you were exiled, that vital math broke completely. A single human cannot sleep and keep watch at the same time. It is a physical impossibility. Closing your eyes alone in the prehistoric night was the exact equivalent of announcing your precise coordinates to the darkness and hoping the universe felt merciful. You were forced to sleep in short, terrified bursts, waking up at every snapping twig, which rapidly induced sleep deprivation psychosis. Within a week, the exiled human was hallucinating from exhaustion, their reaction times delayed, rendering them entirely defenseless. And the predators of the era were paying very close attention. The massive saber-toothed cats, cave lions, and giant hyenas were not mindless beasts running blindly through the grass. They were highly efficient, calculated stalkers that monitored human groups from the shadows for generations. They generally avoided a pack of 20 screaming humans waving burning torches and throwing heavy rocks. The risk of getting poked in the eye with a sharp stick or sustaining a broken limb was simply too high for their strict calorie budget. An injured predator is a dead predator, but a single, shivering silhouette sleeping under a tree with no fire. No weapon defense and no backup? That wasn't a tactical challenge or a risky hunt. That was a free, low-risk, high-calorie meal requiring zero strategic effort. The predators didn't even have to stalk you. They just had to wait for your eyelids to get heavy. Banishment turned a human from an apex predator into the evolutionary equivalent of an abandoned grocery bag left on the sidewalk. You became passive calories waiting to be claimed by the local wildlife. The lonely, scattered, fossilized skeletons found miles away from ancient cave sites tell a story completely devoid of heroism. Many of these bones show clear signs of carnivore gnawing, with tooth marks covering the femurs and skulls, proving they were consumed exactly where they fell. They are silent monuments to a brutal truth. You survived the prehistoric era by swallowing your ego and conforming to the group, even if you absolutely hated every single one of them. Our ancestors traded the ultimate freedom of isolation for the safety of sitting in a crowded, smelly cave, suffocating on wood smoke and listening to their relatives snore. Being human was never a biological status achieved at birth. It was an exclusive membership card issued by your community. And the moment the tribe decided to hit this subscription, the wilderness didn't bother asking for your side of the story, it just deleted you from the timeline.